Okay, could we rise for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Could we have the roll call, please? You want to go another one to get the Pareto thing going?
Mrs. Fryrick? Here. Mr. Posnow?
Here.
Mr. Robinson?
Here.
Mr. Sanders?
Here.
Mr. Scalette?
Here.
Mrs. Schrader?
Here.
Mr. Sears?
Here.
Mr. Toman?
Here.
Mr. Watts?
Here. A reminder, please silence your cell phones. You've got them. And this is the first opportunity for public comment. If anybody has any questions, they will be addressed to the president. Board and staff members will not normally respond to comments or questions during the meeting unless recognized by the president for this purpose. Comments will be limited at the discretion of the president to 5 minutes or less. Going once? Okay. A committee of the board met with administrative leaders on October 17th at 4 p.m. for executive session for a fireside chat as permitted by Section 707 of the Sunshine Act for the purpose of discussing personnel matters. No official action was taken. A committee of the board met with representatives of the York Suburban Education Association on October 23rd, 2018 at 6:30 p.m. in executive session for a fireside chat as permitted by Section 707 of the Sunshine Act for the purpose of discussing personnel matters. No official action was taken, and the board met prior to the meeting this evening in executive session as permitted by Section 707 of the Sunshine Act for the purpose of discussing personnel matters. No official action was taken. Dr. Williams.
Thank you. Tonight, every month we have district-affiliated organizations come talk to us and tell us about their organization. Tonight, Ann Cook, the mobilizer for the YS Communities That Care, is here to tell us a little bit about her organization.
Hi. Well, Greg Kern, who is board president.
Come on up.
Sorry.
We're recording, so.
Oh, okay. Greg Kern, who is board president, was going to be here this evening to help me out with this, but something came up, so y'all are just stuck with me. Most of you, I think, have heard of CTC, and some of you may know our background, but I would like to just start out by giving you a very brief history of CTC in general and York Suburban CTC. I found out something interesting recently that I didn't know. Communities That Care model was actually started in the late 1990s, and it was a federal program originally from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, which some of you may know as SAMHSA. So this was started in the late 1990s as a prevention operating system utilizing a public health approach to prevent youth problem behaviors such as violence, delinquency, school dropout, and substance abuse. And I found something that I think is a pretty good definition of what CTC is. It's a prevention system that empowers communities to address adolescent health and behavior problems through a focus on empirically identified risk and protective factors. So I'm going to get to that a little bit later and explain how we identify the risk and protective factors. But a little bit about York Suburban Communities That Care. We actually were formed in 2001. That was a result of the school district's strategic planning, and that the committee recommended supporting the establishment of a CTC. So we were formed out of that initiative in 2001. For the first several years, CTC was grant funded through several different state agencies, the primary one being PCCD, which is the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency. So they awarded grants for programming, and that grant funding continued through about 2004. As of that time, we became self-sustaining. So what is it we do? And a lot of people really don't know what CTC does. Everybody's heard of us. They really don't know what we do. So I'm going to give you a brief list of the past programming that CTC has done in the district. And I will give you some statistics that I recently found out about at least one of the programs that we sponsor here at the school district. We have student boards at the high school and middle school. Those are the primary programs that CTC has where we directly interact with the students. We have a middle school board, and we have 3 CTC board members who are the adult advisors for that board. And then we also have a board at the high school, which is comprised of 4 students from each grade. And Shama Mir, I saw her sneak in somewhere. She has chaired our high school student board for the last several years, and I'm hoping that if we have time, she'll come up and talk to us a little bit about that. We also sponsor the Big Brothers Big Sisters program, which has been ongoing for several years in the district. And from Big Brothers Big Sisters, I did get some recent statistics. Now, I have heard anecdotal evidence from the schools that they really think the Big Brothers Big Sisters program is effective, and that the parents of the kids in the program are very happy with it. And I've also spoken with some parents, and they're highly complimentary. But the question is, does it work? And the answer is yes. For the school year ending 2017, I don't have the most recent statistics. Students in the program showed measurable success in 6 key areas. These areas were academic performance. They showed a 71% improvement. 82% of the students demonstrated respect for themselves and others. 100% had satisfactory school attendance. 59% demonstrated age-appropriate literacy skills at the end of the program, whereas at the beginning of the program, only 41% showed those age-appropriate skills. 100% of the students were on track to be promoted to the next grade level, and 100% regularly attended the program. So we definitely can say that that is a program that is effective. And we also received some statistics from Big Brothers Big Sisters that I think were very interesting, and I'm not sure that people in our district would, well, I think some people would be surprised, so I will give you those. And that actually, I think these statistics point out just how effective this program is. 17% of the children in the program have an incarcerated parent. 24% are receiving family assistance. 55% are receiving free or reduced lunch. 66% are living in a single parent or other relative or primary caregiver household. So a lot of times people will say, well, how do we know that these programs are working? But we can at least give you some evidence that this particular program works. In the past, some of the other programs, besides the student boards and the Big Brothers Big Sisters program, that CTC sponsors or coordinates, have been Kids in the Kitchen program. That is where the health educator or nutrition educator from Memorial Hospital goes out to the 3rd grade students at Indian Rock in East York and teaches them about good nutrition. So So they have a lot of fun, and the kids take back recipes at home, and we've heard back from parents that their kids start nagging them about good nutrition. So that's a good thing. We have our ABC Kathy Shaver Awards for outstanding students who just exhibit leadership skills, mentoring skills, and they go above and beyond what other students in the schools do, are helpful to other students, and the Turnaround Student Awards. And these are given to students who may not be the most academically successful students, or students who are popular with other students or engage in sports. These are kids who may come into the school district with issues. They may not be engaged in school. They may have trouble with other kids. But through the course of a year, these kids show outstanding turnaround. And we feel that they should be rewarded for that. So we did give one of those awards this year, and 3 Kathy Schaefer Awards. In the past, we've also presented programs to the community on substance abuse, mental wellness, suicide prevention, and more. We have health and wellness events for students. We participate with the high school in the health fair at the end of the year, which unfortunately was canceled this past May because of weather. We have our annual community variety show, which is in November every year, and that's one of our major fundraisers. Plus, it gives people in the community a chance to come out and perform and show their talents. And it's really it's a lot of fun. People look forward to it. And that's coming up soon. And not too many people know, I don't think, that we work with the middle school to put on the Multicultural Festival, which is always a big hit, as Dr. Krauser can attest to. So that particular event celebrates the diversity within our own community and also around the world. And this year we had kind of a different theme. We talked about stories, where kids came in and told the stories of their families, and drew pictures, and it was really, it was pretty cool. So that's kind of what we've done in the past, and we continue to do. Now this year, we also have some new programming, and I have to say, we are thrilled that the schools have come to us and asked us for this programming. It's really great that we're working together very closely with the district. And for the first time, I think, we actually have a presence in all 6 district schools. And I have some thanks to give for that. First, Dr. Krauser, who last year let us pilot the wellness program for yoga after school, which is continuing this year. So they were the first school to get the yoga program in, and it was successful, and we're running it again this year. And to piggyback on that, Dr. Furman and Dr. Gully came to us and asked if they could have yoga at those 2 schools, at Indian Rock and East York, and we said sure. So we now have after-school yoga for students in the middle school, East York, and Indian Rock, and that has been very successful. Between 15 and 20 people participate weekly. And the feedback we get from teachers, the instructors, and the kids has been very, very positive. We also, this year, conducted an 8-week training course for 10 teachers from Valley View and Yorkshire for mindfulness training. So this training allows teachers to bring back mindfulness practices into their classrooms. As with yoga, there is now academic evidence that mindfulness can help younger children learn about their feelings, about being kind to other people, about awareness, increases their focus. And one of the things I think is interesting about this particular program is that it is something that students as they grow, they can continue these practices. And as they get older and they face challenges, it will equip them to make better decisions and to learn coping skills. And again, that's the same thing with yoga, which is not only a good program for students physically, but emotionally. They learn calming techniques. They learn how to deal with heightened anxiety levels. So it's not all fun and games, although they enjoy it, but there are very real physical and mental benefits to those programs. And the other thing that we've been asked to fund this year is the high school came to us and asked us to fund training for 2 Link Crew coordinators. Are you all familiar with Link Crew? Mm-hmm. Okay. For a school the size of our high school, the recommended number of Link Crew coordinators is 5, and the school currently has 1. So they have asked us to fund training for 2 Link Crew coordinators, and then they are going to train 2 more. Right now, we only have 1 trying to get our budget boosted so that we can fund the second one. But I was under the impression when I first learned about Link Crew and when my kids went through from 8th grade to the high school, that the primary benefit was to the student transitioning from 8th grade up into the high school, and it's a very difficult transition. So they are assigned a student mentor to help them through that. What I didn't realize, and just found out last year, is the students who are chosen to be the Link Crew leaders are students who the school feels need more engagement with the school, and they feel that these students will also be helped by helping the incoming students. So there are benefits to both students who pair up in the Link Crew program. I think I've covered pretty much all the past and current program, and the last thing I wanted to do is I wanted to just talk a little bit about the student boards, because they serve 2 different purposes, but they're a hands-on way for CTC to be involved with students and to kind of get the pulse of what's going on with these kids. And in the middle school, what we do is we focus on leadership skills, team building. We have them think of projects that they can do for the school community. And again, we choose kids who are not necessarily the standouts, not kids that are the high academic achievers or the student star athletes. We pick kids who show potential, but they often get overlooked in the school. So we feel if we can bring these kids together and develop their skills, that they can definitely be leaders going forward. There was one other thing I wanted to mention, and I'm going to ask Shama to come up and talk for a couple minutes about the high school board. And that was at the beginning. I mentioned that CTC bases its programs on empirical data. And where do we get that data? And we get that from the PAYS, the Pennsylvania Youth Survey, which is administered every 2 years. And they started that, I think, in 2000. And it's the same kids that get it. When a particular group of children are in 6th grade, they take the PAYS, and then every 2 years, those students in the 6th, 8th, 10th, and 12th grade take the PAYS. And it's an extensive survey, and it focuses on all kinds of behaviors, risk factors, protective factors, and it's a lengthy report. And CTC has an assessment committee that goes through the PAYS report, and we identify areas that seem to be of particular concern. And then we look at those and say, what can we do here to address these issues? So a few years ago, there was an anti-bullying presentation, because that's when bullying was on the rise, and a lot of education was going on around that. We did an opioid abuse program. So we try to address those things that are current and that where we see our students may be struggling. We are going to come back at a later date once that committee has finished reviewing the data, but we have seen a few things that stand out, and I'll just share a couple of those with you. A very high percentage of students in this school district, in fact, a higher percentage in this district than across the state, report feeling sad most of the time, report feeling that sometimes life isn't worth it. They report high levels of stress and anxiety, and we find that concerning because that has been high for the last few years. And another area where we saw some disturbing statistics is with alcohol abuse. We kind of expected what we saw with drug abuse, but we're talking sixth graders reporting drinking. And
Yeah, there's
Dr.
some
Williams-
disturbing evidence in there, but why don't we save that for the actual report and lay it all
But
out
that
there?
those are just a couple of things that popped up so far in our review of the data. And I will let Shauna talk to you a little bit about what the high school student board does.
Okay. Well, I know your time is short. I've been with the high school board for 10 years, so if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. I'll just collect some papers while I'm talking because I came in late. And I will tell you that the high school board is really about relationships. Relationships between the advisors, there's 3 of us, and the students, and amongst the students themselves. That relationship building is critical. It gives us the space and the time, only once a month, to really get to know these kids and to have them feel open and comfortable in sharing and talking as a group. It's basically, our best way of describing it is, in theory, the breakfast club. So we try and get kids that necessarily have a very diverse background, not necessarily or hopefully not all friends. Some are leaders, some aren't, some in sports, some in music. A nice little combination is what we're going for. And I think that the most important thing that we do is that we give the kids a chance to hear and to be heard. We focus mostly on things that are happening in the school. Every once in a while, we delve out into the larger world. I can tell you that it is a joy to be an advisor. Once a year, we have a meeting where all alumni can join us, and I have had kids from 10 years back. And what we have heard, the last meeting was just last January, was a killer. But the great thing is that sometimes the lessons we're trying to impart don't hit them until after they've graduated. But they do hit them at some point. Not everyone, but if I can touch a handful out there, that's great. And so again, if you have any questions, let me know, but I know time is tight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you very much. Tonight we have Dr. Monos and Dr. Adams. Let's do elementary first, Dr. Monos.
Sure.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Just to focus on the community of encouragement that we've been experiencing in Valley View. This year we've tried to open our doors more so than ever. And so I just wanted to share some examples of where we're reaching out to the community, but then the community's coming back to Valley View. So this past month, we have collected money for the local firemen in a fireman's booth. So kids brought in money, brought in change, they got stuff into the fireman's booth. We had our dance-a-thon run by the PTO, which is our largest fundraiser of the year, and it raised just over $12,500 and earned my way to being a principal burrito. So I'm going to be somehow, some way wrapped into a plethora of fixings. Should be interesting. We have a tissue drive present. I don't need stuff anymore. We have a tissue drive presently going on where families are just giving tissues, hand sanitizer for our classrooms, which is a huge help for us financially. We started Breakfast Bees this year on the first Friday of every month. We are welcoming a parent or extended relative with their students to come in and just have breakfast with their child. At each one, I'm sharing some sort of message about either parenting, reading, math, whatever I can do, whatever is relevant at the time. I choose a message to share with our families. We have our kindergarten feast coming up in November. We're welcoming families in to have the Thanksgiving or the holiday meal in November. I think it's November 15th. We have seen increased presence from Spring Garden Township Police, which everybody across Valley View, I'm speaking on behalf of the staff, is thankful for them coming in. We actually had one of them come over for the dance-a-thon, and it was just nice to have an officer at an event that there were no issues going on, nothing like that, but it's just an officer walking through the crowd, greeting families, greeting kids. Their presence has been very welcome this year. And we have kid writing volunteers coming into kindergarten on a regular basis, helping our kindergartners write. So we're proud to be opening our doors and welcoming folks in, but we're also proud to be reaching out into the community. So community encouragement live and well at Valley View. Question.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm not going to come up here and say that I'm going to be wrapped in a burrito at any point like Dr. Monis, but it's interesting CTC does some of their talk with you tonight because some of what we've been doing at the high school. First, let me thank you for your support on behalf of Mr. Shirey and Dr. Ellis from the high school as far as our assembly that we had last week. I know we don't come to you much and ask for money for assemblies. It's not something that we do a lot just because sometimes the one impact or 1 hour, hour and a half that you have with someone, sometimes it doesn't last over an extended period of time. But the speaker, Chris Herron, was outstanding. And I can tell you that, well, for one, putting everyone in the auditorium, that alone was a little bit of a challenge when you have all the students that we have right now and the teachers. But for an hour and a half, you could have heard a pin drop in the auditorium. The message that he delivered on drugs and alcohol, and he extended that into some of the powerful stories that he heard and that he has experienced through other high schools. And he talked about speaking in front of professional sports teams and talking with Brady and Rogers and Durant and a lot of these kids or a lot of these adults that I know, superstars that I know are kids instantly like, oh, you know him or you talk with him. So he drew our kids right in, and it was great. And then he talked about follow-up emails that he received from students about cutting and bullying, and it was just the messages that he sent were outstanding. And again, for an hour and a half, you probably could have heard a pin drop in our auditorium. So, and that's good on two accounts. One, that he sent a very good message that was received well, but two, that our kids are that respectful that they could sit there and really listen. So two things for us to be really proud about, bringing someone in. So I want to thank you for that. We did have last Friday on one of our professional development afternoon, or 2 Fridays ago on professional development, detective from Spring Garden Police along with a former Pennsylvania State Police vice unit person came in just to share some information about drugs and alcohol and vaping and some things that, we know are there. We want to continue to educate our kids, but we want to try to have the most current information from what we're actually seeing right here, or what they're seeing, I should say, not what we're seeing, what they're seeing, and it was just a very good informative session for us. Unfortunately, eye-opening in lots of situations, so hopefully we'll see the benefits from that. I shared with you last month, because I was here a month ago, just about some supports that we had going on at the high school. So I just want to follow up on the ATIP program, just because now I have some data that I can share with you. And I know we talked about the supports. Some of our neediest students, and they were coming in from the middle school, that were either transitioning in from another school coming in 9th grade, or some of our repeat 9th graders were put into our academic Trojan intervention program. A new support in place. And our failure rate for that group was down at the mid-marking period. So now I can say with very pleasantly that 11 out of 126 courses by those students, only 11 courses were failed out of 126. So that's a 91% pass rate. And unfortunately, one student that transitioned back in struggled, so he unfortunately was a majority of those 11 failures. We'll continue to work with him, but it's a program that's working, so I didn't present back-to-back months. I got to share that out, which was good news. And then just some positive recognitions. I'm sure if Ms. Geyer was here, she'll share those with you, and I know you'll get some of them at the end of the month, but and I know, I was at the same show, the matinee show with Dr. Williams, Too Much Light Makes the Baby Go Blind. I don't know if you got to see that. It was outstanding. Ms. Metzler and that cast and crew did a phenomenal job with our school play this fall. Just people laughing, and it was great to see teachers in the audience and students supporting their other students that were on stage. Really, really neat. So I'm sure whatever comes in the springtime, well worth your time to go watch that, or if you see Ms. Metzler's. It was outstanding. It was one of the better ones that I've been to. And then the last recognition just would be the boys cross country team for bringing back the district championship against the York Suburban. So we have a couple of really good honors there with some of our theater students as well as and you'll hear some more about our art students, because we had some art students win some awards. And I'm sure you'll hear that at the end of the month, but a couple good recognitions. So lots of good things going on at the high school right now.
About one of the most important things. Congratulations to you and your family and to Cole for his outstanding performance in states last week. He was the top suburban runner, came in, what was Cole?
At
state.
At 41st.
He was 41st with 225 people on the start line, representing something like 87 AA schools. So that was a real honor. And the girls did really well. But congratulations to you're always congratulating everybody else, so you're entitled to some too.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Thank you.
If I might, under your report, Dr.
Absolutely.
Williams, I'm sure many of you have been following in the news the horrific things that happened out in Pittsburgh, and I wanted to take this opportunity to thank Dr. Williams and the high school put together a very large greeting card, which was on the opening screen. I actually have pictures of all the pages if you want to see it, of all the signatures. The rabbi mentioned it at our Friday evening community service, which is a very moving event for most of us who were there. But we truly appreciated Dr. Williams and the school district reaching out to us during this time, and it was so noted at the service, along with many other comments and good wishes that we had of people thinking about us last week. Thank you very much, Dr. Williams. We appreciate it. That's all.
Ms. Mason?
Thank you. I do have one item on tonight's agenda to vote, and that's the administration recommends board approval of the bid from Tanner Furniture. It's off the CoStar's bid for a total of $8,335 for 29 chairs and a table for the education center. This purchase is coming out of the capital projects fund, as it was part of the updates to be done in the education center for the 2017-18 year under the capital plan.
Second.
There are chairs that are going through the rest of the office.
Questions? Comments? I guess this can be a short roll call vote.
This will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes. Okay, items recommended for approval at November 19th. First one will be the resolution for the certifying the tax rate for the 2019-20 budget. That will not have a tax increase that exceeds the Act 1 index, which for us is 2.7%. This is, in the past, this was always called the opt-out resolution. They've reworded it a little bit, but that's what this is. The next item will be to advertise and solicit bids for the WAN connections between East York Middle School and Yorkshire. And the next one underneath that goes with the tech as well. That will be to advertise and solicit bids for network equipment, including switches and unified threat management solutions.
Was that part of this year's budget? Was that put in the technology budget?
It was. This was part of Mr. Henry's presentation when he presented to the board last spring.
Okay.
And the next item is the, this is an annual item, if you will, the approval of the IDEA pass-through fund allocation agreement with the Lincoln Intermediate Unit for funds for special ed and related services for eligible school-age children. The revenue they have right now for our district would be $386,000, which is very close to what the revenue was for this year. Or, I'm sorry, for 17-18. This is this year's. I'm working 3 years right now. What can I tell you? The informational items, the first two donations for the Valley View Elementary Breakfast Bees, that's what Dr. Monos was referring to with the breakfast that they have the first Friday of every month. There's sponsors that help pay for those breakfasts. The next donation from Indian Rock PTO in the amount of $1,574.50 for their student agendas. The donation from York Suburban Middle School PSO in the amount of $250.56 for the ice cream treats. That's the program Mrs. Fasek talked about last month when she did her presentation. And the donation from John and Maria Pauley Family Fund of York County Community Foundation in the amount of $2,456.50 for the school counselor funding for York Suburban Middle School. They do this every year.
Is this actually paying the counselors, or is this for programming?
It's actually for the guidance counselors to use for when they know that there's a family in need or there's a student in need. It's kind of like their crisis fund. Would that be a good way to?
Absolutely. It's for emergency things that
Okay,
we can't get to the impact clause or something like that. It's done immediately.
I just thought it was other than paying their salaries, because we're doing that.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, it's 100% student driven.
And that's been there for some time. That was even before the whole Impact Foundation
Yeah,
thing.
that was 3-4 years at least.
Familiar with that fund? Is that a suburban family, or is that coming through the county, or do you know?
It does come through the county community foundation. The Pauley family does not live in the district, but they are very, this is something that they've chosen to do.
If I may add, that their focus on the middle level student is kind of countywide initiative to help those emergency needs and intervene early in kind of students' life.
And I'm sure we send out appropriate thank yous and all of that.
Yes. Yep. Once it appears on the agenda, then there's a letter that actually goes out from the board.
A very nice thing to do.
And one final item that I didn't have listed on here is that at the finance meeting next Wednesday at 5 o'clock, the auditors will be presenting the audit for 17-18. And that concludes my report.
I seen in the paper that we were awarded that grant for security, the 20.
Yes, we did get the $25,000.
The other one's still floating, or?
The other one, they have not, out of the remainder of the $40 million that is to be dispersed, if you will, meritoriously, there's $331 million worth of requests. So they're going to fine-tune that process.
Okay.
But we did get the 25, so it's a start.
Right. The committee meeting schedule is posted online. Mr. Robinson, Communications.
Communications. The Communications Committee continues to move forward. May I announce the addition to our committee? Sure. We are very pleased to announce that Nick Staub has joined the committee as replacement for Judy Hirschner. We are confident that he will do a stellar job. He's already shared with us many of his ideas for communications moving forward, so look for a stellar new round of publications and communications. We're also looking at putting together the meeting that we host or offer for those interested in becoming new board members, which will be held preferably either January 15th or 22nd. More information will follow. Any questions? The preferable dates are January 15th and 22nd. But if that's inconvenient, we can also defer to the 29th. Any other questions? That concludes my report.
You're on a roll. Personnel Committee.
Oh, that's me. Personnel. You have before you the personnel report, which includes employment, transfer, and volunteers. Were any board member like any of these items considered separately, or are there any questions on any of these items? If not, the chair moves approval of the below-mentioned items.
Second. Question, why we're having all these changes from one level to another? I mean, were we...
Oh, yes.
Salary adjustments?
Yes, some of these, were originally not, set correctly, and so there's some revisions to make them correct. So it's cleaning up a few, errors.
Other questions, comments? Do a short roll.
This will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes.
Congratulations, Mr. Shari.
Yeah. Congratulations. Yes, we're very excited to have Mr. Shari join the middle school staff and replace another Scott. But Mr. Shari, would you be interested in introducing your family to us tonight?
My wife, Missy Shirey, she's a third grade teacher at Ore Valley Elementary School. My daughter, Allison Shirey, she's a 10th grader at Dallastown High School, and my son, Michael Shirey, is an 11th grader at Dallastown High School.
Thank you very much. Welcome. Anything you'd like to say?
I just want to say thank you for giving me this opportunity to serve the district in this capacity. I really, obviously I do appreciate it. I have a lot of years in middle school, and it's exciting to get back to that age group. I've had a great 2 years at the high school, though, and it's been extremely difficult and sad to leave there. It is one of the greatest places in the world, but I'm very excited to be with that age group in the middle school, and I hear it's also a wonderful, great place to be, so thank you.
Do you realize that when Scott started, he had a head of hair like yours?
Thank you.
Well, on that high note, I conclude my report.
Okay, good deal. Mr. Tillman.
Policy Review Committee. Policy Review Committee, the minutes of August 29th have been attached to the agenda, and we will be recommending 8 policies for approval at the next meeting. Those policies are listed up on the board, and I won't read them. But if there are any questions concerning those policies, feel free to bring them up. Seeing none, we'll expect your approval at the next meeting. Thank you.
Ms. Farrick.
The LIUJOA has a meeting coming up, so I have no current report tonight. And York Adams Academy, I'm pleased to report we have, at one point we had all 12 of our seats filled, now we have 11 students at York Adams Academy, and we already have one person who has qualified for graduation at our December graduation, so we're looking forward to that in December. And that concludes my report.
Ms. Mason.
The Tax Bureau met on October 29th, pretty much standard reporting out, with the exception of they did present the 2019 budget, and that was approved with a 3.85% in revenue, so they're looking at about a $4.6 million revenue coming in for the Tax Bureau.
Trader.
Yes, I just wanted to publicly thank Mr. Skelet for attending the last meeting. I was out of town and he attended in my stead. I don't know if there's anything you need to...
Need to report? No, nothing in particular. They're working on their budget,
Yeah.
so we'll see that before too long.
Yeah, that should be the end of this month. But if you've not taken the time to read the mini board report that is attached there to the agenda, please do so and be ever mindful that the students who attend the School of Technology are our York Suburban students as well. So we're encouraged by all the good things that goes on over there. So that would conclude my report then.
Do we know how many are there?
Off the top of my head, no.
Just under 40 comes to mind,
30
but I
something.
could, I should.
So that's still below the,
Yes.
what we
I
have.
I can double check that number and get it to an email and all of you tomorrow.
That's great, thank
Okay.
you.
Wanted to thank Lois Ann. You had mentioned that they were going to be at the middle school talking about, so I said it had been a lot of years since I had heard of,
Oh, good,
that.
did you go?
It was very, very interesting. The
Good.
kids had just, unfortunately, had a big spirit assembly in the gym gathering, so the 6th and 7th graders had a chance to take a walk and wind down. The 8th graders were shuffled right into the auditorium and said, okay, you're going to sit here quietly and pay attention. But they did. I think they heard some information that they needed to hear. I'm not sure how far it goes with 8th graders, but I did have a chance to talk with one of the guidance counselors and said they have certain students that they reach out to the parents right away because it is a rather extensive application process that they have to go through. But they told them all about the many different programs that were there, and I guess as interested as
Right.
8th graders are at
Right.
that. So, but it was a very nice presentation.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing that out.
Sure. I've heard a number of people say that it's unfortunate that the programming is not such that, we could have students going over junior year, say, once
Mhm.
they are a little more mature.
That could be changing.
To get a handle on that. So that's something that's like always, a topic to discuss, because I agree with you largely, an 8th grader thinking down the road to a vocational piece is a little,
Given
off-putting.
the way the curriculum is changing and the ideas about
Right.
what's coming and not coming.
Right.
But I was pleased to hear that the guidance counselors do reach out to
Yeah.
parents to let them know, because you do have to show up there for certain testing and get your applications in, and they said for 400 spots, they get like 800 applications. So I
Right.
think a few ears perked up a little bit that, this is a competitive process
Right.
over
Right.
there.
That's a topic that's come up several times over the past few
Yes.
weeks, the opportunity of not being locked in.
Mhm.
Because how many 8th graders know what they want to do
Right.
moving forward? If we could do a
Yeah.
switch where 10th grade could
Yeah.
happen as well.
Right.
Well, I'm going there tomorrow to
Yeah.
have
Okay.
lunch and to talk to the
Oh,
director.
good. Yeah,
So,
he's a good egg. So
yeah,
anyway,
and
thank you
he
for-
wants to change things.
Yeah. Thank you, John. That concludes my report.
Okay. The board meeting committee schedule is posted online, and this would be your last opportunity for public comment. Going once? None? Thank you very much.